millionaire isn't always cracked up to be, you know? To be honest, it's quite annoying. For people constantly beg to try to calm your charm out of your millions, sometimes people will even go as far as to try to rob you of your money. It's out of freaking control, I'll tell ya. I don't even have any real friends. Any friends I have brought with them off of eBay have got some beer. I guess I should explain some things. Now, I own a massive oil company up in Rikers Field. The company is extremely profitable and, of course, makes around $1 million every minute. My company was one of the longest time running professional oil plantations in the entire United States of America. Because you know how money and the company generates as a daily quarter. I've tried up investigating my money on the local bank, but after a while they started to refuse my money as I was clogging up their vaults. So instead I have to store millions in a massive vault in my mansion. Yes, I live in a very big super mansion with a room for a view. I am so rich that I'm living in my swimming pool inside a swimming pool. Now that just shows you how rich I am, doesn't it, my friend? So I just own a private jet, and my clothes are lined. 2 tickets to Universal Studios, ka-ching! With all the money my company makes, as you might expect, a lot of people will try to scam me out of my millions. One time, 2 charity collectors named Dr. Bunsen Honeydew and Beaker came to ask me a donation to the Winnie the Pooh Charity Foundation. What I might put you down for? Dr. Honeydew asked as he rested his hand upon my desk while I was trying to do some important paper. Nothing, I yelled angrily at Miss Dr. Honeydew asked. You wish to remain a hippopotamus? Oh, forget this, I angrily yelled as I began chasing the 2 pair down the road with my broomstick. If you ever come back here, I'll send my grandson after ya, I yelled at the top of my lungs as Honeydew and Beaker disappeared into the sunset. My grandson's name is Sonny, and he acts like my second command at the oil company. Sonny, on the other hand, is addicted to Cocoa Puffs and has been trying his best to get rid of his addiction by taking up a cycling hobby. He hasn't had much luck yet, and I doubt he ever will. So sad back in the 1960s, Sonny and I traveled to the Rub at Kaulas Desert for about weeks to search for the oil. We had both grown up in a poor and on the stressful streets of Empire Bay, and were desiring one day to strike it rich. That's when we both found it, a huge oil spill located on the very center of Rub al Khal. Oh, Gramps, we'll never get this, Dad, Sonny cried as I said evilly. Old Sonny can't resist the taste of Cocoa Puffs. I held the box of puffs up high to Sonny's face and close to it as his face turned into a drill. I used Sonny to drill the underground as we began collecting all the oil. 1 week later, my oil company was built upon the foundations of a local disco club, with Sonny becoming my second in command. I still often use Sonny's addiction to my advantage in order to explicit my own gains. Yes, I'm quite an asshole, but you could blame it on me, really? No, you can't, so don't even try. Sonny, for that incredibly long tangent, as I now said before, I am very miserable because I am now even a millionaire. I have no real friends apart from Sonny. Even Sonny is just staying with me so I can keep making millions of dollars per day. So of course that's just stick around the wrong in my humble bumbled opinion. Now, because of my desperate state, I've been spending a lot of time recently just chilling in my swimming pool, watching some cartoons like Futurama, SpongeBob SquarePants, Ed, Edd n Eddy, The Simpsons, Courage the Cowardly Dog, and etc. However, there is this one show that I became extremely attached to the last few months. It was none other than Mickey Mouse. Just to be clear, my dearies, I'm talking about the 2013 Mickey Mouse series, not the awful, downright heartbreaking series that Mickey Mouse Clubhouse has. I rarely use this kind of language, especially when Sony's around, but who cares? But F that show, man. Moving on from my hatred towards Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, let's talk about the downright 2013 series. Not only incredibly faithful to the old Mickey Mouse cartoons, but of the 30s and the 40s, but it also has a certain level of charm to it, which has successfully managed to maintain a total of around 94 episodes, plus 2 specials. Isn't that swell? The show was actually sold the whole season. I bought the subscription of Disney+. It's only the Disney show that I actually care about. It recently came to my attention that Mickey Mouse was premiering the official season 6 premiere. I was very excited to see it. Sadly, I had to spend the entire day at the premiere at my company. We were sorting out some problems when an untruly customer who smelled like tacos. Give me some oil, the customer yelled angrily, as I responded with, okay then. I then proceeded to hand the customer a huge cup of oil. The customer drank down the oil and he yelled, gotta go fast! And then he died, and then he was thrown out by a nearby dustbin. Dustbins make the teeth go gray. That evening, I headed home to my super mansion and plopped myself onto my master bed in my master bedroom in order to view the Series 6 premiere of Mickey Mouse. I held my tablet up to my feathers and I scanned through the list of episodes until I reached the first episode of Series 6. The episode was called You Can't Bank on Scrooge. The teaser picture was that of Scrooge McDuck getting thrown out by his mansion by two bulldog police officers. The hypnosis of the episode was Scrooge McDuck ends up becoming bankrupt after Donald spreads rumors to the police. Scrooge then has to learn about the hardships of working for a normal job. And I was even more excited to see Scrooge McDuck, who was my favorite characters in the entire Mickey Mouse franchise. Not wanting to wait any longer, I hesitantly clicked on play and the episode began with a brief of advertisement. I must have admit, I found this rather confusing as Disney Plus was supposed to be a commercial-free service, but I didn't mind really. I was rather high on PG-13 tips, and at the other time anyway, the commercial which had the Indian man sitting by a really dirty river with a small bottle floating by him. What's that, a bottle? The man proclaimed, and he went inside the river and he picked up the bottle. He had his hand inside the bottle and he pulled out a small sheet of paper. He looked at the paper and said, Shadow Reader loves otters. The man then began bursting out into a groovy dancer, which of course lasted for 2 hours straight. I wish I was joking. Don't believe me? Ask the dishes. They could sing and dance. This is all there in France. Sorry about that. Anyways, after that nonsense that ended up with the episode began with the title card which read, You Can't Bank on Scrooge. A horrid picture of Scrooge McDuck's face came on screen, and of course scared the heck out of me. My feathers were even began to turn white. The episode then began with the outside view of Scrooge McDuck's mansion. Inside the house, Scrooge McDuck was being shown sipping on a cup of tea in his fancy living room. He was sitting on the small, wealthy aristocrats. I certainly hope they weren't aristocrats. Ha! Anyways, let's begin. Scrooge and the aristocrats were chatting about how much money they have. I say, Mr. Scrooge, how much money do you think we have currently? One of the aristocrats said, as Scrooge responded with, How the heck should I know? Scrooge then took another sip of his tea and then heard a loud knock occurred at the front door of the manor. Ducksworth answered the door, and before getting rudely pushed out of the way by a large team of police officers who stormed into the manor, they made their way inside the living room and grabbed Scrooge by his neck. What the heck do you think you're doing with me? Let me go, Scrooge demanded, as one of the officers responded with, No can do, Mr. McDuck. I'm afraid you're under arrest for felony tax evasion and money laundering. Money laundering? Tax evasion? Of course, Scrooge asked with a confused voice as he was thrown inside a paddy wagon. No, wait, I can explain, Scrooge cried as the wagon began to drive towards the Palace of Justice. At the Palace of Justice, Claude Frollo then revealed himself to Scrooge that Scrooge's nephew, Donald, had told the police that Scrooge owned a massive money-printing warehouse over in Monarch Avenue, and it was also heavily involved with money laundering. Of course, Donald then went on to tell the police that Scrooge would sell his counterfeit money over to the Fawston family, who would make it into a soup, but the soup banned Mickey Mouse land, and Scrooge was given 25 years in prison. But Scrooge was then cut off when he was dragged into jail by two police officers. A time title card then came on the screen and read 2 months later, and Scrooge McDuck was shown leaving jail having been let out early thanks to Mickey and Goofy for bailing him out. Of course, Mickey and Goofy both came to save Scrooge after he was released. So, what are you going to do, Mr. McDuck? Mickey asked as Scrooge responded with, Well, first I'm going to get my revenge on my nephew. And then I'm going to get my fortune back. Scrooge then turned to face Mickey and asked, Speaking of Donald, where is he? Of course, Mickey then let out a laugh nervously while rubbing the back of his head. What's going on? Scrooge asked. It was Goofy who answered by saying, Well, Mr. McDuck, if you rot in jail, Donald took the control of the McDuck Manor. Nerd, he converted all your money into coins, and he's planning to build his very own castle on the hill. Whoa! Of course, Scrooge then excused himself, and the Paris company began to walk with him down the streets in order to think about a plan for action. Scrooge then sat down on the bench on the local park and began to contemplate on the entire thing in his head. Cloud Scrooge then finally would be mad at his nephew, or could it be really a sacrifice of a family relationship just for the sake of getting his own damn money back? No, he couldn't. Scrooge then couldn't blame Donald in all honesty. If Scrooge had been in Donald's shoes, he would have done the exact same thing. Donald's plan, in a way, would have been genius. Lied to the police that his uncle was involved in criminal activities, so he would inherit the whole mansion. Scrooge had to hand his dear nephew. He wasn't so dumb as he looked at it. No sirree. Absolutely positively he was not. That was when Scrooge decided that he needed to get a job and find a mind to get over the fact that he lost all of his money to Donald Duck. Scrooge managed to land a job at the local grocers. The grocers were run down by a live-action man named Norris Fildsworth. Scrooge quickly grew desperate despite Norris, who was completely constant moaning about things that he didn't even need to moan about. Norris was constantly moaning about the quality of sweets that the shop sold. Just look at these monstrosities, Norris moaned before continuing with, what's up with the midget germs and even the sherbet lemons? Norris then could also constantly worry about how much the money would shop loses money a day on the daily basis if the grocers would rob on a weekly basis. Sometimes daily spending time direction of the sun. Ha! Of course, one day a customer rushed a bottle of milk over to the store, complained that it was very past its expiry date. Scrooge happily gave the customer a new milk bottle along with the refund. That's when Norris then appeared on the screen. You can't even give out the refunds, boyo, Norris then yelled angrily as Scrooge asked. Well, why not, I may ask? Norris then proceeded to slap Scrooge across the face. He yelled, I have taught you nothing, you boyo. We have to keep running all the refunds willy-nilly, and then we'll be left with no money left. Of course, Norris then slapped Scrooge across the face, which proved to be the final straw for Scrooge. Scrooge got up on the floor and then yelled, I've had enough! Scrooge then proceeded to beat the crap out of Norris. No joke, he did beat Norris up to a bully pulp. Then he threw Norris out the window and yelled, and stay out! And then that's when Scrooge decided perhaps it was time to get a new job. I paused the episode briefly and asked myself if Sonny had finished cooking us dinner. Sonny, you there? I asked. No response. I'm assuming he was probably out at the local Tesco's trying to buy some more Cocoa Puffs. I then went back to watching the episode. However, the nagging worry was still there. Where is Sonny? I pressed play again and saw that Scrooge had now gotten a job at Captain Hook's boat. Captain Hook owned a massive shelter for the homeless mice and ducks of Mickey Mouse Land. And of course, Scrooge was in charge of preparing the soup for the duck to begin to eat. Unlike Norris, Captain Hook was much more intelligent and far less annoying to the boss. However, Hook did look like he had some fair share of problems, as he was very stingily always kept bugging Scrooge about how much the soup he gave out for dinner. However, Scrooge then could understand that Hook's plight didn't exactly have that much soup going around. However, one day, just like Norris, Captain Hook ended up pushing Scrooge buttons too far when Scrooge discovered that Hook had been keeping leftover soup for himself. You greedy man! Scrooge yelled as Hook asked, What do you think you're doing in my office, Scrooge? This! Scrooge said as he grabbed Captain Hook by the neck before proceeding to throw him out of the boat to the river. Then a crocodile began tick-tocking towards Captain Hook, who yelled, Smee! Mr. Smee then came down rushing for the river, and of course, rowing a small boat as he began to ride off towards the sunset. Hook swam over to Smee while getting chased down by a crocodile. Scrooge had finally had enough. He wanted his mansion back, and he began driving the boat towards McDuck Mansion. Arriving at McDuck Mansion, Scrooge then crashed the boat into one of the side of the mansion, which ended up creating a huge freaking hole. Scrooge then used the hole to use the entrance to the mansion. Inside the mansion, Scrooge fought his way up for the waves and the waves of Donald's guards, which of course they had been once served to Scrooge from many moons ago. Scrooge eventually reached to the master bedroom where he saw Donald Duck just chilling and playing GTA 5. Donald waved at Scrooge and asked, "Wait, what are you doing here, Uncle Scrooge?" Scrooge then sat himself on the very edge of the bed and gave Donald a sinister grin. A glare that's so sinister that Gordon Ramsay would be scared by it. "Why did you do it, Donald Duck?" Scrooge asked, as Donald responded with, "Do what, Uncle Scrooge? Why did you sell me out to the police for a crime I didn't commit? Do you have any kind of idea of any kind of crap I've gone through these past 3 months?" Scrooge then yelled angrily at the top of his lungs. Donald then sighed heavily as he began to explain his story to Scrooge. Basically, Donald has always dreamed of becoming a millionaire, much like Scrooge had in his younger days. Of course, Donald had since grown up being tired of living in the console home with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. He longed for something more than his provincial life, and he was going to ask Belle to be his wife. "Ha, only joking, my friend. You could see that I hold you back," a sinister sailor chuckled. "Well, keep holding in, boy. I've just finished washing the carpet." Donald then went on to say that he all wanted was to drink a hot tea of chocolate while listening to Cliff Richard without the fear of the damn nephews annoying him all the time. Scrooge then gave a little small sigh and asked, "You really mean all that, Donald?" "Ha, no," Donald laughed evilly as the doors to the master bedroom swung open and a large army of soldiers came in holding very powerful weapons. They all point their weapons towards Scrooge and asked, "Any last words, dirtbag?" "I love Kung Fu!" Scrooge sang as he was shot full of bullets by the soldier. Of course, Scrooge then collapsed dead and covered in wimp rat juice as Donald turned to face the screen and said, "Ahoy there!" The last screen was about the episode of Donald sipping some hot chocolate right in front of the fireplace. Cliff Richard could be seen playing on the radio as Donald said, "Ah, you good old Donald, you did good." And with that said, the episode ended with no credits. Instead, Disney Plus just shut itself off. I then decided to heard a small murmuring noises from behind me. I turned around to see that it had a mouth and a boot and said, "Hey, Alistair." "Who on earth are you, Sony Jim?" I asked. "I'm the great bootleg leg," the boot replied happily as I joked. "Sound too much of a hot air to me. Want to see something real bad?" The great bootleg asked as I responded with no. "Well, too bad," the great bootleg said as it caused the tablet to start shaking violently. And I eventually stopped when I grabbed it in order to take a closer look at what so great bootleg had done to my beloved tablet. I switched it on and I couldn't believe what I saw. The screen of the tablet showed my blank details. All my money had disappeared and now I had $0 and all of the millions I have long since disappeared. How incredibly tragic. How could I be so foolish? Then suddenly the master door of the bedroom swung open and infamous NJ Richard Beck came back in. I was thrown into the streets while Sony was landed with the keys by Beck. "It's yours, my friend," Beck said happily before making his leave. "Sony, you got to help me out," I cried as I unmoved Sony and responded with, "Nah." I was then chased down the streets by Sony's guards. While running, I ended up running past Honeydew and Beaker, who were drinking a tea at the local cafe. The pair pointed out and started laughing at me. Well, Honeydew pointed and started laughing at me while Beaker just gave me the middle finger. Meanwhile, after the job, the guards eventually gave up and I began resting at the local library. That's when I realized I needed a job. I eventually managed to land a job at my local grocer's. My boss who looked remarkably like Norris Feldsworth, treating me like a scumbag. And of course, very cringy for some kind of Jake Paul. I also didn't have any time to live now. I was forced to stay at Captain Hook's boat. Captain Hook charged people $1 a night to sleep on his boat. And it was a very smelly on the boat, and Captain Hook always serves fish and chips for breakfast. It's not even cooked very well either. So it also wakes you up at like 5 in the morning before any other creature on the planet is woken up. That is just sick. One day I decided if I could possibly rent a house from Pig's Home. Pig's Home is a non-government funded service which provides easily affordable homes for less fortunate birds like myself. I made my way over to the headquarters and managed to rent a nice little condo north of my old mansion. Sadly, problems began to arise as I quickly ran out of money to pay rent. You see, you had to pay Pig Homes a big small home a loan of $30 each week. It doesn't sound like much, but trust me, if you're working with grocers, it is. Eventually, I got a visit from my landlord, Mr. Piggy, who owed about $70 5% of pig homes, and I tried my best to explain to Piggy that I had no money left in my account. But this caused Piggy to yell, "Do you know what happens when you don't have enough money?" I was cut off by Piggy when he threw me into a small cat carrier. "Now you work for me," Mr. Piggy proclaimed as he took me outside in his car. Mr. Piggy put me to work in his salt mines over the outskirts of Hyrule. Mr. Piggy was a horrible little pig. If you don't mind saying, my friend, he was had a horrid temper. If anyone refuses to do their work, Mr. Piggy would land the little frecker over to Big Smile Lee. And now that's a true fear, isn't it, my friend? I helped Mr. Piggy mine salt, which of course then sells into Tesco or other supermarket chains. Of course, Mr. Piggy makes a killing for this and was able to make money to buy houses. Houses were then put on sale for pig homes, and Mr. Piggy and his boss, who run the scheme, who made sure that the rent on the houses were unaffordable to those people who forced to work for Mr. Piggy at the salt mines. He owned about maybe 10 salt mines, which of course scan across the entirety of Hyrule. Only Link can save them now. Perhaps I deserve this cruelty at the end. After all, whatever I did, I had no money left. Was that crap piece of crap and bone, which of course karma finally got to me. I'm working for Piggy, so it isn't as bad as he always thinks, and he professionally to all of us at hard work. However, just like Scrooge McDuck, I'm beginning to contemplate on getting my revenge on that piece of crap grandson. He stole everything from me. I last heard Sony had just taken a private job to Vet City. That lucky boy. He probably snitched on me, tried to get to the police to do the same thing Donald did to Scrooge in that episode. Oh, I've got to go right now, my friend, for I got some scheming to do. And that, my little pretties, was You Can't Bank on Scrooge, a Ducktales Mickey Mouse Creepypasta. I think you could probably call it that. I don't know, but let me get to the story itself. I actually found this story to be a rather really amazing, a really well made story. I can definitely say there was definitely lots of time and effort into the story. And that's the main thing I could definitely say why I like this story. Now, the story itself for me was actually really interesting in many ways I can count. Like, the grammar of the story was absolutely beautiful. The storyline was actually really good. And I could definitely say right now is that this story was actually really well made. Now, I could definitely say the concept was pretty silly pretty good at the same time, but of course that says something right here that I'm just going to say right now, that this story was actually pretty good in many ways that I can count. So, of course, that's just me because I don't know, but yeah, sorry about that. I kind of had a brain fart here, but okay. Now, I could definitely say that I do appreciate was the good grammar, the storyline of how it went out, the paragraph structure was good, the sentence structure was good, and the whole story, basically the flow of it just went out very well. Like, it actually fits really nice with the story, and that's a very good thing. I could definitely say that it was a really good story in my opinion in many ways. Now, of course, the story was good, and I could definitely say that this story was absolutely beautiful. Now, if you guys want to take a read at this is on Goshio Wiki. And yeah, this has been written by Matthew Bumford. Matthew Bumford, I want to thank you so much for writing this story. I really appreciate it. It was a really good one, and I highly recommend you make more of these. So anyways, with that said, I actually love this story. I thought it was really enjoyable, and it was very well made. Now, I'm going to say this right now before I wrap the review, since this is a short review, because this story was really long. Now, basically, Scrooge McDuck ends up losing all of his money. Oh my god. I would be, having the same reaction Scrooge and the protagonist did if I lost all my money in one day. That's exactly how I would be feeling right now. But other than that, this story was just absolutely amazing, and it's really cool when you come to think of it. So, I guess you could just kind of say that the story was actually really well done. Now, Anyways, I'm going to say right now that this is simply my own personal opinion, and if you disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, or funny pastas in this case, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be a 10 out of 10. It's a great creepypasta, or funny pasta, even though it was quite confusing at first, but it was obviously really good. Now, I did have to take multiple reads because I was laughing so hard, so I could not laugh as much as I would. But this pasta, I have to say, Matthew Bumford, you did an awesome job with this story, and I really hope you make more of these stories. Oh, pardon me about that, guys. I'm just really tired today. But anyways, I hope you make more stories, and despite, this story beyond Goshia, it's actually really good. Now, if you guys want to take a look at the story, feel free to do so. And anyways, what did you all think about this creepypasta or funny pasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what have you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so then you guys won't miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out of here. And I will be seeing you all in the next video. Peace out.